Now, the gentleman who is going to act as moderator is, even as young as he is to most of us, is a very distinguished gentleman already. He's a Washington lawyer specializing in trial works. He was the lawyer dealing with the largest FDA, the Federal Drug Administration case, or his Food and Drug Administration case that has ever been tried, and a little disappointingly, it was the outstanding case as far as effort involved and time consumed and things of that sort until the Watergate case came along. So this is one of the minor casualties of the Watergate fallout. But he still is a very distinguished lawyer. He was one of the founders and organizers of the ACLJ, which is a counter-irritant to the ACLU. And the significance of those letters are that they are the American Citizens for Liberty and Justice. And they are really getting to work on coming to the rescue of the mistreated citizens that the ACLU still disregards. He got his first college degree at St. Joseph's in Philadelphia. He went to Temple Law School in Philadelphia. He has been a lecturer at Georgetown, and he has already a very distinguished career behind him. He is very active in fighting the FDA and the federal administration and authorities on their attempt to control the distribution and use of vitamins, which is a matter of very great concern to many of us. And I expect they will tell you something about that program during the course of the evening. But I am going to turn the podium over to this lawyer now, and as he has the need for his assistance from across the country, one of whom has been delayed by air service, but has promised to be here sometime within reasonable time from now. And he will introduce those other gentlemen as the occasion comes. But I want to present to you with great enthusiasm and gratitude for the time that he's devoted to this program, Mr. John Joseph Matonis. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Bunker. Thank you, Mrs. McKinney. Distinguished guests, General Watts, Professor Rice, fellow citizens, anti-collectivists, health food, natural food and nutrition advocates, health freedom fighters, tax resistors, OSHA resistors, anti-communists, members of the John Birch Society, members of the American Party, Christians, traditional Catholics, and Orthodox Catholics, and Baptists, patriotic publishers, friends and neighbors, brothers and sisters, priests, doctors, lawyers, ministers, Americans, patriots, and ladies and gentlemen attending the great New England Rally for God, Family, and Country. Colonel Bunker referred on Friday to some new faces at this rally. I am one of those new faces. And I'm glad to see some of the old faces to your rally, some of the people that have been more openly in this battle than I have. I'm particularly glad to see the people fighting OSHA, because I'm no longer, we who have been fighting the Food and Drug Administration are no longer on the front lines in fighting the federal bureaucracy who send their unelected rulers into our businesses and our homes. Now we have those who are fighting the Ostapa side by side with us, and we can tell you some things because we are veterans in fighting the federal cops. And I'm speaking about those of us who, for the last 20-some years, have been fighting a concerted effort on the part of the Food and Drug Administration to dictate how you should raise your family, what foods and vitamins you should give them, what doctor you should go to, what treatments you should take. The Food and Drug Administration is at this time by far the most arbitrary and the most capricious of all federal agencies. But yet they can be beaten. Some of us have had some victories against the Food and Drug Administration, and winning is what I am going to talk to you about in my portion of this seminar, and what the other distinguished lawyers are going to speak about as well. Winning. Now, Oliver Wendell Holmes was asked once, or wrote once, what is truth? And he said that when Christ was asked this question of Pontius Pilate, he didn't give him an answer. And so Oliver Wendell Holmes deigned to tell us what Christ wouldn't tell us. He says, Christ wouldn't define truth for you, but I will define truth. And Oliver Wendell Holmes defined truth as the majority opinion of the nation that can lick all others. That was his definition of truth. A lot of people have tried to define justice. I have wrestled with this myself, realizing that as a personal injury trial lawyer, people do not come in to my shop and say, I want to get some injustice. My neck really doesn't hurt me, but I want to get some money from that insurance company. People come in with injuries, and they want justice. And I have never had a client come to me and ask for any injustice. I don't have any injustice in my shop. All I have is justice. And then that thought sobered me. And I wondered, what is justice? The best definition that I have been able to come up with, gleaned from reading in my practice in law and my study of history and philosophy, has been this. Justice is winning when you are right. That's justice. Winning when you are right. If you do not win and you are right, that's injustice. If you win and you're wrong, that's injustice. Winning is important, and it's an issue that we should address ourselves to, because if we take certain actions in history and analyze them, say putting a bullet through another human being, say, well, that's a crime. Well, how about if the human being happens to be a redcoat and you're a patriot in 1777? It's not a crime then. So the difference often between being a patriot and being a criminal is winning. And we can win. It can be done, ladies and gentlemen. Look who's winning today. The communists are winning. The kooks are winning. The perverts are winning. The smut peddlers are winning. The criminals are winning. The leftists are winning. The bums are winning. Winning, 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 and where are they winning? They're winning in the courts. Joe Ferguson, who spoke about OSHA, is coming out with that book, OSHA Blueprint for Tyranny, said there are some good federal judges. I'd like to talk to Joe and find out who they are, and I'd like to compare notes. If there are some, there are few, on this issue of patriotism and individuality and anti-collectivism. I know that there are problems by taking this route, that is the judicial route, that is using this third branch of the government, the judiciary. And I realize that there are many cards stacked against us. Does anyone have any better suggestions? Congress, for example? How many of you have received those stupid, vapid, inane letters from congressmen that say, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I want to keep it under advisement"? Raise your hands if you have. Now, I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm going to tell you a little secret out of school. A lot of those guys on Capitol Hills have automatic computerized typewriters. And this is the truth. They hit a button, and the typewriter types a response that's programmed into it. And if you're from Mississippi, and you're complaining about the plight of the yucca-plucca birds in northern Mississippi, and you write to a congressman and complain about it, he'll go over to his automatic typewriter and he'll push yucca-plucca birds, and that's your answer. And if you're complaining about the Food and Drug Administration taking away vitamins, he'll look over, vitamin nut, he'll push that button and you get an answer. If you're complaining about OSHA, he'll look over, OSHA nut, his secretary will hit that button and you get your answer. And if you write about all three buttons will be pushed and you'll think you got a letter that was composed by that man himself. One senator, Hubert Horatio Humphrey, has one of those typewriters, and not only that, has a facsimile machine. Well, that's not new, but he didn't even sign the signature in the facsimile machine. Congress is not the whole answer, and we cannot depend upon them. The Hosmer bill is an example of that. The Hosmer bill would strip FDA of its power to regulate dietary foods that are safe and would nullify these recent oppressive, ridiculous, obnoxious Food and Drug Administration regulations on vitamins and dietary foods. It's a good bill. The only thing is, Congress adjourns in mid-September. There's less than 3 months left, and you know nothing much is going to happen over the summertime, and they will adjourn. The regulations start going into effect January 1, 1974, and that Hosmer bill is not even out of subcommittee yet. And so if you're counting on the Hosmer bill, those of you who oppose these vitamin regulations, you better get used to getting your recommended daily allowance of vitamins by licking the oppressor's boots. I doubt very much if the Hosmer bill will be passed over the summer. Some of the problems with Congress, you get answers that are no answers. If you write to the federal government, sometimes you don't even get an answer. The good thing about a complaint, a legal complaint, even one that you make up and file yourself, is that it has to be answered. The clock starts running once that is filed, and it must be answered. And we really can't complain about the courts unless we try them. And try to find those few good judges, and even some of the bad ones, who can be confronted with the ridiculousness of their actions. We can confront judges and say, "Judge, you ruled, for example, that this smut peddler had a right to say these things. My client should have the right to say that vitamin C will prevent the common cold," which it does. If a smut peddler has to get a warning, which he does under Quantity of Books versus Kansas, If a smut peddler has to get a warning before there is an FDA seizure, the health publisher should get a warning, the health food store should get a warning, and also, as the smut peddler gets an adversary hearing to decide whether there's any prima facie violation of law. If they don't, FDA swoops down, gets the press there, seizes products, even padlocks buildings, even burns books in the street, which happened to Wilhelm Reich, the psychologist in New York City. And even some of the judges who are not good judges would not want to appear inconsistent. So we should try the courts. Now, the ACLU is, the American Civil Liberties Union, is in the business of promoting its own political philosophy and its own ideology. They represent the criminals, the kooks, the perverts, the smut peddlers, the communists, the leftists. They're not representing you, ladies and gentlemen. They're not representing me. Now, where do we go? Where is our ACLU? I propose an alternative to the ACLU called the ACLJ. I propose a nationwide emergency legal cadre to fight illegitimate bureaucrats. Now, what can you do? That's all right. That's easy for me to say. I'm a lawyer. There's a role for the layman. There's a role for PR men, people to write press releases, historians, office workers. The ACLU has a lot of people who are not lawyers. If you're a lawyer, I ask you to come forward and join our trial corps. If you know a lawyer, send his name to me. I have a booth in the corner of the exhibit room. If you're a layman, and if you want to help, particularly if you're in public relations or writing in any way, I want to meet you. We must provide emergency representation. We must pick up our wounded. Now, what kinds of cases am I talking about? Cases that I've handled a lot of, health freedom cases, where welfare will come into a home and take children away from their parents because they disagree with the parents' diet or because the parents refuse to give the child a drug or let the child undergo an operation. I have had 10 of those cases in the last 4 years. I only lost one of them, and in that one case, the parents, laymen, practiced what we in law call self-help. They had the little girls who were about to be operated on. They had them home for Christmas just before the operation, and they left the state. And now those little girls are in a chiropractic, osteopathic hospital in another state, and they haven't been operated on yet, and they're still alive, and that was 3 years ago. The welfare cases, that is, where welfare tries to interfere with our lives. These cases are screaming for representation. The abortion cases. Everybody is concerned now about abused children. What about the abused prepartum child? We should have lawyers representing unborn children. In those cases where teenage daughters want abortions and the parents object. We had a case in D.C. where a teenage daughter wanted an abortion. Her mother objected for religious reasons. The judge appointed a lawyer for the little girl, and that lawyer was all prepared. He appointed a lawyer there was a lawyer representing the city and the hospital. The mother had no money. She had no lawyer. No representation. before I could do anything about it, before I could call the judge. The abortion had taken place. The judge said to me, if I had known, I would have appointed you to represent the unborn child or the parent. And this raises the question that is going to be asked to all of the participants in this discussion tonight, and that is, have patriot lawyers done enough? And if not, what more can they do? Now, if the lawyers do not do their part, then there's only one alternative, and that's to represent yourself. And you have a right under the Constitution to be your own lawyer. And I met people at this convention who do that, and I applaud them. And I see no reason at all and no justification under the Constitution of the United States why there should be a select group called the bar and why you should not have a non-lawyer represent you. And I see no reason under the Constitution why, if you want to represent another person in court the way it was at the time of the American Revolution, why you shouldn't be allowed to do just that. Now, some of you are sharpshooters. Some of you would like to be sharpshooters in this arena, in this holy war that we're all fighting. Some of you have some ammo, funds, ideas, help, assistance, your hands and your minds. And I'm asking those of you who are sharpshooters or who want to be sharpshooters to identify yourselves, and I'm asking you who have any ammo to come forth and let us mold an organization, a network of constitutional citizens who are interested in using this judicial branch of the government in order to gain our objectives. You know, the smut peddlers have an organization like this. I don't know. I believe it's called the American Pornography Association, or the Association of American Smut Peddlers. Whatever it's called, they have no problems when one of their smut peddlers gets hit. They send out a sharp lawyer who has already prepared his briefs, and he runs out to that town, your town, coming from New York or Washington, D.C., and he helps that local lawyer represent and defend that smut peddler. The ACLU does this. The ACLU has the briefs prepared ahead of time. They have lawyers. They have volunteer lawyers who serve without pay, but their expenses are paid. The situation now is such that the time is running out. Oh, and I believe in education. But I say, let's educate some judges. And if they don't want to learn, let's impeach them.